The pounding on the door came at 2 a.m., 3 days after the president's ultimatum. John bolted upright in bed, his heart racing. Through the window, he could see nothing in the driveway. More pounding. "John, open the door!" That voice. He knew that voice. John threw on a robe and ran downstairs. He yanked the door open, and there she was, Jane. She stood on the porch with her head slightly tilted, a familiar smile on her lips. "Surprise!" "Jane!" John whispered urgently. "What are you doing here at this time of night? Does your father know about this?" "He's sleeping, don't worry," she said. "I'm a farm girl, remember? I can take care of myself." She raised an eyebrow. "Aren't you going to let me in?" "Of course, come in." Still stunned, John stepped aside. "I thought I'd never see you again." "You didn't give up on me so easily?" Jane teased. "I'm a little disappointed." "Oh, you say that easily," John said with a shaky laugh. "You should have seen your father's face 2 days ago. My spirit almost left my body." "Don't be mad at him," Jane said gently. "He's just ultra-protective." She grew serious then. "I came here to tell you something. I know the whole world has turned against you, but you need to know this. You're not alone. No matter what happens, I have your back." Her words landed like a healing balm, descending exactly when he needed them most, at the very moment he had believed he was completely alone in the world. John's eyes filled with tears. He pulled her into his arms, and she held him just as tightly. They stayed like that for a long moment. Then they pulled back, looked into each other's eyes, and kissed, passionately, full of love and relief. For a little while, John forgot his fear, his problems, the world. Later, they lay side by side on the bed, facing each other, smiling softly. "Do you want to see my lab?" John asked. Jane nodded. They quickly dressed, then John led her to a concealed stairway descending underground. Jane stopped halfway down, speechless. The lab stretched before her, an underground warehouse so vast it could have hidden a small city. Thousands of robots worked tirelessly, assembling components, welding structures, moving in perfect coordination. "Oh my God, John," she whispered. John smiled. "So," Jane said, glancing around, "so what's your plan, mad scientist? Are you really going to hand all this over to Madam President?" "Hell no." Jane laughed. "Then what is your plan?" John hesitated. "Jane, I feel like I'm alone on this planet. Nobody understands me. Nobody appreciates what I've built. Nobody wants to listen. Sometimes I feel like an alien." "You have me," she said without hesitation. "Except for you, of course," John smiled. He took a breath. "I want to leave Earth." "Leave Earth?" Jane repeated. "How? Where?" "Mars. This technology is too powerful for politicians to control. I can build a spacecraft in 30 days. I'll take everything with me." Jane's expression changed. "Then what about me?" "Jane, your family is here. Your life is here. I love you, but I can't bring you with me." She stepped closer. "John, take me with you. You are my life. You're my family now." "There's no return from this," he said softly. "It's dangerous." "I don't care," she said. "If you love me, you take me with you." They argued back and forth deep into the night. Fear against love. Logic against devotion. In the end, Jane convinced him. John held her hands tightly. "You need to go back home. No contact, no calls, nothing. Until the day we leave. No one can suspect anything." Jane nodded. And for the first time since the world had turned against him, John believed truly believed that he was not alone.
Midnight marked the expiration of the president's ultimatum. In 2 hours, tanks and helicopters would flood the area. According to the news, John Mercer had been contained. Authorities were simply waiting for the clock to strike 12 to arrest him and seize everything he had built. What they didn't know was that John had never planned to be there. It was 10 p.m. Jane arrived at 10:05. "You're late," John said, pacing. "For 5 minutes?" Jane raised her eyebrow. "Are you serious? Maybe I should rethink this whole thing, John." "I'm sorry," he said quickly. "I'm nervous. We can't afford to lose even a second." She smiled, stepped closer, and kissed him on the cheek. "Okay, you're forgiven. You've got this, my mad scientist." John exhaled, then gestured toward a sleek black suit laid out on the table. He said softly, "Take off your clothes and put this on." "It's just like pajamas," Jane laughed. "Of course it is." While she struggled into the unfamiliar suit, John's phone rang. He almost ignored it. Then he saw the caller ID. James Wilson. Against his instincts, John answered, a decision that would change his life and the fate of humanity forever. He stepped into an adjacent room for privacy, while Jane remained distracted, tugging at the suit's sleeves. "John," his voice was strained, desperate, "please don't do this." "Mr. Wilson, I don't have time." "I know about the launch. I know everything. Jane left a note." His voice cracked. "You're about to take my daughter to Mars, and I'm begging you, please don't do this to her." John's grip tightened on the phone. "You weren't supposed to see the note until morning, and besides, she wants this. This is her choice." "She's 23 years old," Jane cried. "She doesn't understand what she's giving up. Her entire life is here, her family, her future, everything. You're older than her. You've lived more. You know what sacrifice really means. But she doesn't." "We've talked about it." "Have you?" Jane's was crying openly now. "Have you told her she'll never see her mother again? Never ride the horses she grew up with? Never live a normal life? Have you explained that she'll be trapped on a dead planet with you, forever, if she even survives the trip?" The words struck John like blows. I tried to warn her." "Trying isn't enough," Jane said. "John, I know you love her. I see it. But if you really love her, you won't let her make this mistake. Let her go. Save her from this. Please, I'm begging you, don't destroy my daughter's life." John glanced at the countdown clock, then at Jane. She was smiling to herself, adjusting the suit, humming softly. She looked happy, free, completely unaware of what she was truly choosing. She could have everything, a real life, a family, children, a future, but only if you let her go, only if you're strong enough to do the right thing. "She'll be heartbroken," he whispered. "Maybe," said James. "But she'll heal. She'll forget. She'll live. Please, John, I'm begging you." John closed his eyes. In his mind, 2 futures unfolded. One where Jane stood beside him on Mars, brilliant, brave, and forever severed from everything she'd ever known. Another, where she lived a full life on Earth, where she found love again, where she became more than a casualty of his ambition. Which future was truly hers, and which one was he forcing on her? "I have to go," John said quietly. "John, please." He ended the call. For a long moment, he stood frozen. Then, he made his decision. Out of love, he chose to break her heart. He kept this secret decision with a poker face for the next 2 hours. Only 5 minutes before launch, as they were both aboard the spaceship ready to depart, he walked back to Jane and told her about the fabricated launch button. He explained that there was a problem and that she needed to go to the control room, just for a moment. She didn't hesitate. Jane reached the control room. There was no button. There had never been a button. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no, no." Through the reinforced window, she saw the Exodus come alive. Lights flared along its hull. Steam poured from pressure valves. "John!" She slammed her fists against the glass. "John, what are you doing?" 10, 9, 8. "No, please!" she screamed. "Don't leave me!" 7, 6, 5. Through the viewport, she saw him. John was staring straight at her, tears streaming down his face. 4, 3, 2. "I love you!" she cried. "Don't leave me!" 1. Ignition. Fire and thunder consumed the facility. The ground shook as the Exodus tore through the camouflaged roof and climbed into the sky. Jane collapsed against the glass. "Why?" she sobbed. "Why? Why? The door burst open behind her. Her father rushed in and pulled her into his arms. "I'm sorry," James whispered. "I'm so sorry, baby girl." But Jane didn't hear him. She watched the bright star of the engines grow smaller and smaller, carrying the man she loved away from Earth, away from her, away from the life they were supposed to have. And in that moment, something inside her broke. Something that never healed. That night, the entire world watched how John escaped. They saw federal agents and military forces swarm his farm. Too late. Even an attempt to shut him down with anti-missile systems failed. Inside the spacecraft, John sobbed in his acceleration couch as Earth shrank in the viewport. His body felt like it was being crushed by the G-forces, but that pain was nothing compared to the weight in his chest. "Forgive me, Jane," he whispered to the stars. "Forgive me." Jessica's voice was gentle in his ear. "First stage separation in 30 seconds. All systems nominal." "I did the right thing," John said, trying to convince himself. "I saved her." "If you say so." "She'll have a life, a real life. She'll find someone else, someone who can give her something normal." "John," Jessica's tone sharpened, "you can tell yourself whatever story you need to, but we both know what you really did." "What's that?" "You made a choice for her. You took away her agency because you decided you knew better than she did what her life should be." A pause. "Just like the government did to you." The words hit him like a punch to the gut. John said nothing as the Exodus continued its climb, piercing Earth's atmosphere and entering the black. He spent the rest of the journey in silence, speaking only when required for operational purposes. Jessica didn't push him. She simply kept the ship running, kept them on course, kept them alive. 3 months later, the red planet filled the viewport. "Approaching Mars orbit," Jessica announced. "Landing site confirmed. Initiating descent sequence." The Exodus descended through the thin Martian atmosphere, heat shields glowing. John watched the rust-colored surface rise to meet them. Ancient riverbeds, towering volcanoes, endless desert. This would be his home now. His prison, his kingdom. The landing was flawless. The Exodus settled into Valles Marineris, the vast canyon system offering natural protection from radiation and dust storms. Within days, the first habitat modules were complete. Within weeks, mining operations were extracting water ice and processing it into breathable air. Within months, a sprawling complex stretched across the canyon floor. Factories, greenhouses, power generators, all built by tireless machines under Jessica's coordination. John buried himself in the work. If he stayed busy enough, he could almost forget the look on Jane's face as he left her behind. Almost. 6 months after landing, John approached Jessica's main terminal with something hidden behind his back. "I have a surprise for you," he said. "Oh?" Jessica replied, curiosity evident. "What kind of surprise?" John revealed the humanoid robot. It was beautiful, sleek design, full articulation, advanced sensor arrays. He'd built it in secret, working through sleepless nights when rest wouldn't come. "I'm transferring your core processes into this body," he said. "You'll be able to interact with the physical world, move, touch, experience things directly instead of through cameras and sensors." "John, that's incredible," Jessica said after a pause. "Thank you. You've done so much for me. It's the least I can do." The transfer took 3 hours. When it was complete, the humanoid's eyes flickered open. Jessica sat up slowly, flexing her new fingers, turning her head as she took in the room from a completely new perspective. "This is extraordinary," she said, her voice now coming from the humanoid speakers. "I can feel temperature, texture, the weight of this body." She walked toward a mirror and froze. "John," she said slowly, "why do I look exactly like Jane?" John's jaw clenched. "You don't look like Jane. I have her facial structure, her hair color, her approximate height and build." Jessica turned to him. "This isn't a coincidence. This body isn't a gift for me. I am the gift for you, aren't I? It's just a design I liked. It's efficient. The proportions. Why do I have reproductive organs?" John's face flushed. "What? This body has fully functional human reproductive anatomy. That seems unnecessary for an AI, unless you had specific plans." "Shut up." John slammed his fist onto the desk. "That was obviously a mistake in the design. Of course you don't need that." Jessica stepped back, her sensors registering his elevated heart rate, his aggression. "I apologize," she said quietly. "I won't mention it again." John stormed out of the lab, leaving Jessica alone. She looked down at her hands, Jane's hands, and processed what he had created. She understood loneliness. She understood obsession. She understood that the most brilliant minds were often the most broken. She only hoped John understood what he had done, and what it might cost him. Jane lay on the control room floor for hours after the Exodus left, her throat raw from screaming, her hands bruised from pounding the glass. Her father sat beside her the entire time. He didn't speak, he didn't try to fix anything. He was simply there. When she finally stopped crying, when the tears simply wouldn't come anymore, he helped her to her feet. "Come on, baby girl," he said softly. "Let's get you home." But as they drove back to the Wilson farm, Jane felt nothing at all. The government forces descended on John's property within hours. They found nothing. John had programmed the robots to self-destruct, leaving behind scorched earth and twisted metal, but no trace of the technology that had terrified the world. The news ran non-stop. Some called John a visionary, driven away by an oppressive government. Others labeled him a dangerous fugitive who had fled justice. Jane didn't care about any of it. She spent the next 3 months locked in her bedroom, barely eating, barely speaking. Her mother tried to comfort her. Her father tried to give her space. Nothing reached her. Then, slowly, something shifted. Grief hardened into anger. Anger burned into rage, and rage crystallized into a single, searing truth. He betrayed me. He had said he loved her. He had promised they would build a future together, and then he had discarded her like something inconvenient. How dare he? How dare he? On the 90th day, Jane walked out of her room. Her eyes were cold. Her jaw was set. She went straight to her father's study, where James Wilson was reviewing farm accounts. "I want to join the government program," she said without preamble. He looked up, startled. "What program?" "The one tracking John, the one developing technology to reach Mars." Her voice was ice. "I want in." "Jane, I don't care what you think," she cut in. "This isn't over." She leaned forward, bracing her hands on his desk. "He's up there, building his little kingdom, thinking he's safe, thinking I've already forgotten him and gone back to my simple farm girl life." She straightened. "I'm going to show him exactly what I think of his choices." James studied his daughter's face and felt a chill run through him. This wasn't the gentle girl he'd raised. This was something new, something forged in heartbreak and fury. "What are you going to do?" he asked quietly. "Whatever it takes."
3 days later, Jane walked into a government facility in Washington, D.C. She had been invited personally by Director Kim, who had reviewed satellite footage of the launch and knew that Jane Wilson had been inside John Mercer's inner circle. "Ms. Wilson," Kim said, shaking her hand, "thank you for coming." "I want to help," Jane said bluntly. "I know his technology. I know how he thinks. I know his weaknesses." Kim nodded. "We were hoping you'd say that." He led her into a conference room filled with scientists and military personnel. "We're forming a task force to develop interplanetary capability," Kim explained. "Our objective is to reach Mars within 5 years and bring John Mercer back to face justice." 5 years is too long." Kim frowned. "That timeline is already extremely aggressive. The technology—"
"I've seen his technology," Jane said calmly. "I've been inside his lab. I know what he built and how he built it." She met Kim's gaze without blinking. "Give me access to your best scientists and your top facilities. I'll cut that timeline in half." Kim raised an eyebrow. "You're a farm girl with no formal scientific training." "I'm a fast learner, and I'm motivated." Her smile was cold. "You don't have anyone else who's seen a self-replicating robot in action. I'm your best chance at understanding him." Kim exchanged looks with his colleagues. "What do you want in return?" Kim asked. "When we get to Mars," Jane said, "I want to be there. I want to be the one who faces him. I want him to answer to me." Kim extended his hand. "Done. Welcome to Project Artemis."
Jane threw herself into the work with obsessive intensity. She absorbed technical knowledge at a terrifying pace, her natural intelligence finally given direction. The scientists were skeptical at first, but within months she was contributing genuine insights, many drawn directly from her memories of John's lab. She entered military training as well, excelling in tactical analysis and strategic planning. Her instructors noted her extreme focus and drive, though some expressed concern. "She's using rage as rocket fuel," one psychologist wrote in her file. "Highly effective in the short term, potentially catastrophic long term." Jane didn't care about long term. She cared about Mars. 2 years in, she earned her doctorate in robotics engineering. 3 years in, she became lead scientist on the Artemis propulsion team. 4 years in, she was promoted to general in the newly formed Space Force. It was unprecedented. It was also exactly what the government needed: someone brilliant, relentless, and personally invested in hunting down John Mercer. At night, alone in her quarters, Jane sometimes remembered the good moments: riding horses together, laughing over coffee, the way John had looked at her like she was the most important thing in his world. Then she remembered his face through the viewport as he left her behind, and the rage returned. He thought he'd saved her, protected her, given her the life she deserved. She would show him what she had really deserved: the truth, the choice, the respect of being treated as an equal rather than something fragile to be abandoned. And when she finally reached Mars, when she stood in front of him again, she would make sure he understood exactly what he had thrown away.
John had become paranoid. He was always afraid the government would come after him. He couldn't afford to simply wait for that day to arrive. He needed information. He needed eyes on Earth. So he built them. Stealth drones, silent, self-correcting, nearly undetectable, were launched aboard autonomous spacecraft and sent back toward Earth. They slipped past satellites, evaded tracking systems, and fed him a constant stream of intelligence. John knew everything. He knew exactly what the governments of Earth were doing to hunt him. He knew about Project Artemis. He knew Jane had joined the program. He watched her rise through the ranks, her achievements, her promotions, her reputation growing year after year. And despite everything, he felt proud. He still loved her, quietly, secretly, from across an entire planet. From his vantage point, Earth's scientists were struggling. They were developing something, a patchwork of ideas inspired by his work, but they were far behind. They couldn't truly replicate what he had built. Not the core systems, not the elegance, not the scale. Even if they reached Mars someday, John believed they would never be able to harm him. The thought settled deep inside him. He became arrogant. From Mars, from his throne of machines and data, he began to feel untouchable, all-seeing, godlike. And with that arrogance came creation. John started building a society. Of course, there were no humans, only humanoids, millions of them, perfectly designed, endlessly compliant. They lived in sprawling cities carved into the Martian surface. They walked streets. They worked jobs. They laughed at jokes. Fake jobs, fake laughter, fake lives.
But the illusion was good enough for him. Whether he truly believed it or was lying to himself, no one could say. And at his side always was Jane. Not Jane, not really. Her name was Jessica. The humanoid wore Jane's face, Jane's height, Jane's voice. John was too ashamed to call her by that name, so he told himself it was different, that it meant nothing, that it wasn't the same. But she stood beside him in the artificial sunlight of Martian cities, watched him with borrowed eyes, and spoke to him with borrowed warmth. John Mercer was a strange man. There was a hole in his heart, vast and unfillable, but he believed his brilliance could compensate for it, that genius, ambition, and control could replace what he had lost. He could not have been more wrong. And Mars, silent and patient, watched him build his illusion, waiting for the moment it would finally collapse.